Your next personal assistant will not be a person. In the future, everyone will have their own AI personal assistant, one that completely understands their voice and can complete manual tasks such as adding to their calendar and sending emails on a daily basis. So let's build it. No fluff, right down to business. So here's what we're going to be building. We're going to be building a Telegram AI agent that understands our voice and text-based messages. That Telegram agent is then going to be connected to N8N, which we're going to use as our orchestration layer. That will be connected to an LLM, which we'll use to extract information from the messages, whether it's a voice note or a text message. And we'll be utilizing an AI agent with tools to allow us to integrate with things like Google Calendar, Gmail, and a CRM as well. So whether you're a busy founder or developer, this is for you. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to create a new Telegram bot, because we need to create a new conversation for this, and then it has a new access token for a particular conversation as well. So I'm going to open up the bot folder and I'm going to type in new bot. Let's call this Code Creations Personal Assistant. Username, okay, CC 2025 PA bot. Great. So really easy. We can set up a bot like this, and then all we need to do is we need to just copy this access token and add this as credentials within N8N. So if I come back to this view and I click on create credential, let's create a Telegram API, and we're going to put the access token into here and name it something relevant as well. Telegram Code Creations account version 2. This is what we're going to use to connect N8N to the Telegram conversation. It's going to allow us to listen to new messages, reply, and do everything that we need to do within Telegram. So this is a really important step. Some of the other credentials that you're going to need to use as well. So you're going to need to authenticate your Google Mail and your Google Calendar as well, and Google Sheets if you want to make use of the CRM part of this project too. So now let's come back here and let's start again. Right, so now we set up the credentials. Let me just come back to Telegram very quickly. It also prompts you to open up the Telegram bot as well. So I'm going to click on this link. That will create the conversation here. And if I click on start, that will then add it to my panel on the left-hand side as well. So that's great. Now we have our conversation within Telegram and we can get started. So let's create our trigger. We're just going to be using a Telegram trigger here, and we want to trigger it based on a message within a conversation. So we're going to connect it to the credentials that we've just chosen. We're going to trigger it on a message, and there's no other sort of like additional fields that we need to add here for now. So that all looks fine. So now let's test this step, and it's already picked up on the start message that came through anyway. So let's just do this one more time. With our own message, and you can see that it's picked up on the hello message, so that's good. Let's pin this for now so that we can keep track of this and we don't have to keep rerunning this every single time. Good, so we have our Telegram trigger now. One thing that's really nice with these sorts of Telegram bots is to try and improve the user experience and to try and make the experience a little bit more conversational rather than just a back and forth sort of thing. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to send a message straight away back to the human, i.e. me in this case. Basically just saying, you know, received your message, I'm working on it, essentially. So just sending a confirmation message back to the user. So we're going to send a message. Once again, use the right credentials. We're going to use the chat ID from the data that came from the Telegram trigger here. And we're just going to say, I'm on it. Just thinking. And then what we can do as well in this reply markup is we can, within the additional fields, we can go to reply to message ID, and then we can put the message ID in here as well. Once again, taking it from the Telegram trigger. So if we take the message ID here, then what this will do is it will just show up as a reply to the message that I just sent. So let's test this step now. Notice I've just got a notification on Telegram. So Telegram received my message, and it basically just replies straight back to me saying, okay, I'm on it, just thinking. So I'll be back in a moment, essentially. So that's quite a nice thing just for a user experience point of view. So let's just rename this to send confirmation. Nice. I'm going to pin this as well because I don't want it to be... Actually, no, let's keep this unpinned for now. Great, making good progress so far. So now what we need to do is, as I said before, we want this Telegram automation to be able to handle both voice notes and text messages. So what we need to do is we need to add a switch. And this switch is basically going to decide and route whether the message that's coming in is a audio file or whether it's a text message. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this snippet here. So we're basically going to take the data from the Telegram trigger and we're going to look for the message, and we're also going to try and find the file ID within that message. If it does not exist, then we're going to consider this as text. Whereas if it does exist, then this will be considered as audio. Now there are some more in-depth checks that you can do here, because it's not necessarily always going to be text or audio. It could be an image, it could be a file, that sort of thing. But for now, we're just going to keep it simple like this. So let's try this out. And we can see that it picked up as text. I will test this with audio a little bit later on as well. But that looks all good. Now, with this switch, we have two different routes that the automation could go down. It might need to process and pass the audio, or it can simply just go straight to the next step, which is actually extracting information from the text message. So for now, we're going to extract information from the text message, and then we'll come back to the audio path in just a moment. So to extract the information from the message, we're going to use an OpenAI node, and we're literally just going to message a model. Now, what this model will be doing is taking in the text from my message and extracting all the relevant information that we need to pass to the AI agent next. The reason why we have this intermediate step is really just to make the job of the AI agent a little bit easier. We're going to take the message from the user, we're going to extract key fields that are going to be needed, and then those key fields will be given to the AI agent where it can decide what it needs to do with the data. So for this, we're just going to choose GPT-4o, that should be fine, or even GPT-4o mini. And I have pre-saved some prompts that I'm going to use here. So this is the system prompt that we want. I'll talk through this in just a moment. And then we're going to want a user prompt as well, which will look something like this. So let me talk through this. The system prompt is very simple. It's not too complicated what this AI, what this LLM node is going to be doing. It's going to be taking in a message from the user, and it's looking to extract the following fields. If I've referred to a person, if I have referred to an event start and end date, an event name, and an email body. The reason why I've listed these 5 fields is because these are the 5 data points that are needed by the tools in the next step. So as you add more functionality, as you add more capabilities into the AI agent, you'll need to obviously expand this list of data that needs to be extracted. I find that doing this in an intermediate step, rather than relying solely on the NAN AI agent to extract all this information, gives better performance and works better. And then afterwards, just giving it some rules. So you need to output the information in a valid JSON format, and also giving it some grounding in terms of what today's date is. This helps when it comes to creating events in the calendar. And then in the user message, we've simply just got, the message that's been sent from Telegram. So that's absolutely fine. We want to output the content as JSON. I don't think there's any other options that we need to add here. So no, that looks all good. Let's rename this, and this is going to be pass message. Good. So let's test this step. And notice that, for this particular message, which is obviously just a complete test, we haven't really gotten anything. We've not really gotten any key information. It's actually just thought that the email body is hello, which is fine for now. So we can save this. Now let's unpin this, because we're going to test it with some audio. And let's start building out the audio path. So before we dive into the audio path, let me just give a little bit more information about how this is going to work. So an audio file, especially in the context of Telegram, is saved as an MP4 file somewhere on their servers. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to identify that it's an actual audio file that we're dealing with, which is what we've already done with the switch. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to download that data from the audio file using the inbuilt Telegram capabilities within NAN. But in that format, the data isn't usable. We need to actually transcribe this audio. So once again, we'll be making use of an OpenAI model. We're going to be using a Whisper model to transcribe the audio very quickly. As long as the audio isn't too long, it will still handle it if the audio is longer, but it's very quick and very, very easy to implement with short audio clips. And then once we've got that transcription, then we can basically just wire this up back to the same node that we just created, where it actually processes the text and extracts any relevant insight for the AI agent. So it's quite a simple sort of pathway, really, but really, really effective and really useful. So to work on the audio pathway, let's now create an audio message. So we're going to come back to Telegram and I'm going to send an audio message. Hi there, can you add an event into my calendar for the 30th of August from 12 until 4 p.m. That event is basically just a team all hands call. Okay, great. So I sent the message. I didn't have it actually waiting for the trigger, but then I was able to trigger it straight afterwards and it was able to pick up on that message. So that's all good. So yep, it's sent the confirmation. That's absolutely fine. So now let me pin this data. Notice that the data that's come back from Telegram looks very different. Now we have this voice object, and within here we have a file ID, which is exactly what we want. So if I come back to the switch, now this will take me down the audio path, which is why it's highlighted here. So what we can do now is let's go back to Telegram and let's get a file. So we're going to use that file ID and we are going to retrieve that audio file and we're going to download it. So get audio file. So let's test this step. Okay, it didn't like that, so let's not take it from the trigger. Let's take it from here, from within the switch. So we'll take this file ID here. Reason why it's not working is because we're using the wrong credentials. So let's use the right credentials. So we're looking at the right conversation. And here we go. So we've got this data object. So this data object is essentially just a binary piece of data here. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what that is essentially, but essentially we've got the binary data for this audio file stored in the memory of the automation, which is exactly what we need it as. And it's being stored as this data field here, named as data, which is important. You can even download this, and it will download it straight to your computer as well. But this is fine for now. We can leave this as it is. So we've got the data file. Now let's create an OpenAI node and let's transcribe a recording. So we're going to use our credentials, the correct ones this time. Transcribe a recording, input data field name. So this needs to line up with the name of the binary data, which in this case is both data. So that's absolutely fine. We don't need to add any more options here. This is pretty standard. So then let's just rename this as transcribe audio. Rename, and let's test this. And here we have the text. So yeah, it's pretty much understood exactly what I said to it perfectly, which is brilliant. We can pin that just to save a little bit of time whilst we're testing. Now we want to wire this back up to the pass message node. But now we're going to have to update this pass message because we're no longer just taking text from here, from the switch. We're also conditionally taking text from the transcription node as well. So if I come back to the pass message, actually I already had it in here, so we're absolutely fine. Essentially, we are conditionally looking for text within the Telegram trigger, and if that's not available, then we're going to the transcribe audio node and trying to get the text from there. So I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's unpin everything and let's just test this complete flow out, and we're going to test it with audio this time. So let's save it. Can you send an email to Steve, and I want to tell him that his work this morning was fantastic. Okay, so you saw it was triggered. It went down the transcription route because obviously it was audio, and it's passed the message. So if we check what it's done in the pass message, it's given us a person name, which is exactly what we want, and it's given us an email body. So with this AI agent, there's a couple of different functionalities that we're going to enable. One is to send emails, and the second is to create events within my calendar. So in order to send an email, it's going to require the name of the person and the email content. And to create an event, it needs the start date, the end date, and the name of the event. I'll come on to that a little bit more. But this is perfect. This is exactly what we need. So now let's continue with our AI agent. So let's create an AI agent node. And once again, I'm going to use some prompts that I have created previously. So the user message will essentially be this. Now I'm just going to skip over this very quickly, and then I will come back and walk through everything. This is the system message. And we're not actually going to require a specific output format. We're just going to use the text that it outputs as the message within the next part. So that's fine. Okay, so basically what's happening here, if I start with the system message, as you may have seen in some of my previous videos, I recommend using a template for your prompts. Check out my other video on top 5 LLM hacks if you haven't seen that already, about how to optimize and write the best LLM prompts. But this is a really nice standardized format that I use. So give it a role, add some context, give it a chain of thought in terms of the different tasks that it needs to complete, and then add some rules that it must abide by at the end. And there's a whole bunch of tricks and sort of like wordplay that you can use within these prompts, which once again I talk about in my other video, so you can check that out. So for this, I'm essentially telling it that it's a personal assistant, and I'm giving it some context in terms of what it's able to do. You're capable of complimenting me. I mean, that's always nice. Adding events into my calendar, retrieving contacts from the CRM, and sending emails to the contacts from the CRM. Now, the reason why the CRM is important is because when I tell the personal assistant who I want to send the email to, it needs to get the email address of that person from a database somewhere. So we're going to use a CRM in the form of a Google Sheet for this particular case. Context, so you're going to receive some structured information. This can include a person's name, event start date, event end date, event name, and email body, if available. You have access to the following tools. So in this case, it has 3 tools. 1, which is a tool to retrieve contacts. 2, add an event to calendar, and 3, send an email. So based on the information that's provided, you need to decide on one of the following scenarios to execute. So the first scenario is retrieve contact details and send an email to them. So the tools that they're going to use for this is they're going to retrieve the contact from the CRM, and then they're going to send an email to those contacts afterwards. So the required data here is a person's name and email body. Basically, if we need to send an email, then we need to know who we're going to send it to and what the content of that email is. There's some really nice extra features that we can use in here as well to actually populate extra information within the emails and calendar events. And the second scenario, so in this particular case, our AI agent can only perform 2 things, which is sending emails to people and adding events to my calendar. So the second scenario is adding an event to my calendar. It's going to use this particular tool, and all it needs for this is the event start date, event end date, and event name. And then this last sentence here is basically just reinforcing the fact that in order to perform one of these scenarios, you need to have the required data. If you don't have the required data, then respond back to me saying try again. For the task, once again, just giving it some chain of thought in order to ground it in terms of how it thinks and processes things. So the first thing, understand what I'm saying, then decide if any tools are needed. If not, respond back to me straight away. So you don't need to go through the process of using any tools, just come back to me straight away. But if tools are needed, then execute the necessary tasks using these tools, then provide a summary of what you did back to me in a message. So it's going to execute all the different tools that it needs to use, and then it's going to come back to me basically telling me what it's done. And then finally, just some rules. So never respond to a message that is outside the scope of your role. If it is outside of the scope, respond with a compliment. This is always useful just to keep the LLM on track. You can only use the tools in the specified scenarios. Yeah, that's fine. And then all the data fields are optional. Consider empty strings as not available, essentially. So yeah, this is a pretty solid template. You can copy this, of course, and everything will be provided in the Gumroad workflow that you can download, so you can always just use it from there. Right, so that's the system message, and then very quickly just the user message. Basically all we're doing here is we're just passing the data from the previous node. So underneath the structured information bullet, we're basically just providing a JSON structure with all the structured information that we have. So in this example, we've got the person's name as Steve and the email body, which is, basically what I've just, what I said in the voice note. I want to tell him that his work this morning was fantastic. Great. Okay. A bit more configuration we need to do with the AI agent. Let's utilize an OpenAI chat model. GPT-4o mini is absolutely fine. Let's use that. Or let's go with 4o actually, just to give it a little bit more firepower. Memory, we don't need any memory for this. You could introduce memory into your workflow if you wanted to, if you want to give the AI agent the ability to be able to recall things that you said previously, but for now, we're not going to use this. And now we're going to get into the tools. So with your AI agent, you can give it extra functionality in the form of tools. It's essentially just technology that it has available, which it can utilize and leverage whenever it sees fit. So in this case, we're going to give it 3 tools. We're going to give it a tool to retrieve contact information from the CRM. We're going to give it a tool to add events to the calendar, and a third one to send emails. And the way that the AI agent works with these tools is it will take the incoming information, so the structured information from the previous node. It will use the context that we've provided. You know, it's a personal assistant. These are the tools that it has available. These are the rules and the guidelines that it needs to follow. And it will dynamically decide which tool to use. So based on the information, it might decide that actually no tools are needed and I'm going to respond back with a message. Or it might decide, okay, I've got information about the event, the start date, the name. I'm going to create an event, and then I'm going to go back to Aaron and I'm going to tell him that I've created an event for him, which is perfect. The trick here is that I don't have to program the AI agent on how or when to execute these tools. It decides dynamically based on the context and the rules that I've provided. So you can imagine as you start to expand out the number of tools and even the number of agents that have different capabilities, this can become really powerful. So let's start adding our tools. Let's add the Google Sheets tool first of all. And NAN has really come on leaps and bounds in recent weeks and months with these AI agents, especially with the tools. So they've created a whole bunch of tools out of the box that you can use. Before you kind of had to create the tools manually, but now they've actually got dedicated tools that you can connect to your AI agent. We're going to choose the file that we want. Let's connect to the right Google Sheets account, and then let's choose our CRM. I believe it's this one. Yeah. So I've already got this tab open, so let's just open it up here. So let's take a quick look at the CRM. Once again, this is a very simplified CRM. I have a name column, a location column, and an email column. Basically, what the automation will do is it will come to the CRM, it will look at the name that I've provided in my message, it will try and match it, and then it will basically take the email from this row. So we're going to use the CRM data, and we're going to need the contacts. And then what we're going to do is we are going to add a filter, name, and we're going to populate this with person's name. So if the person's name exists, then we're basically just going to try and find this person in the CRM. And what's important here at the top is that you can add a tool description. Now, the reason why this is important is because this is what the AI agent uses to decide whether or not the tool is necessary at any given point. So once again, in my text file, I've added a whole bunch of descriptions. They don't need to be super complicated. They just need to be very clear about what they do. So in this case, nope, we're not sending an email. We are getting contact information from the CRM. And I've also just referred to the sort of code that I gave to all these different tools in the previous node. So this looks good. I'm happy with this tool. Let's add another tool, which is for calendar. Connect it to the calendar. So once again, you're going to have to create these credentials previously within the NAN credentials area. We're going to set a description, add event to calendar. We're going to create an event. Let's choose our calendar. And then let's update the start and end date. So the start date would be here. Now you may have noticed in the previous node when we were extracting the start and end date, we are extracting it in a very particular format. That format is necessary in order to create the event at the given time. Then what we're going to do is add a few more fields. So we're going to add a description and we're going to add a summary. Now, what's really nice here, one of the new features in NAN, is that you have this AI button at the end here for all these different fields. So you can define, specific fields to populate, or you can actually just let the AI decide. So in this case, I'm going to let the AI decide the description and the summary based on the information that it has available. So that's great. We're good with Google Calendar. Let's add one more tool, which is Gmail. So tool description, once again, let's create that ourselves. We're going to send a message to, now I'm going to let the AI decide this, because the AI agent retrieves the information from the CRM, so it then has the email address of the person that we want to email. So I'm going to let it basically decide this on its own based on the information that it has available. I'm also going to let it decide the subject. We're just going to keep it as a text message for now, and then the email body we will specify. And yeah, there's nothing else that we need to do here as well. So good, that is the Gmail tool as well. Okay, so the last thing that we need to do is we just need to send a message back to Telegram essentially. So we'll add this in, we'll send message. We don't actually have the message to send yet, so let's delete this, let's save this, and then let's test this workflow. I'm going to test this workflow based on the data that I already have triggered. So let's pin this, and let's just test this workflow very quickly. So it's going to use the audio file that I had previously. You can see it's retrieving information from the CRM, and then it's actually trying to send the email, and that all executed perfectly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the email in the calendar and show you if anything actually got executed. Okay, so here I have my email inbox that I sent the email to. Now notice in the CRM, I've basically used an alias email here. So even though they are all unique emails, it's actually all being redirected back to my own email address. I'm just doing this for testing purposes, but obviously these can be unique emails if you wanted to. So the email got sent. It got sent from my email inbox. And as you can see, it got sent to the +2 alias email address, which is related to Steve, which is perfect. So it retrieved this information, it retrieved this email, it sent this email, and it even sent the email body that I specified as well. And it populated the subject too. So this is incredible. This is exactly what I wanted. And if I just open this up just to see exactly what happened, so you can kind of inspect the logs here as well. So the OpenAI model was called, it went to Google Sheets, it found Steve, which is perfect. It then went back to the OpenAI model, went to the Gmail node, sent the email to the email address, once again populated it with the correct email. The AI agent did this all on its own without me telling it what to do. And then it came back and responded with a message essentially. So now what we can do, let's just pin this, connect this to the Telegram, the final Telegram node. Let's move this over. And we can send this back as the message on Telegram. Once again, we're going to use the same chat ID as before. So let's come way back to the Telegram trigger. Let's go to the chat ID and let's send this. Use the correct credentials. So if I come over to Telegram, brilliant. I've successfully sent an email to Steve, compliment on his fantastic work. If there's anything else you need, feel free to ask. So that's great. Perfect. Everything is working as expected. So now let's unpin all of this, because now let's actually try this for real. Let's save this, and then let's make this active. And let's come over to the executions so that we can monitor the executions. So now what we're going to do is we are going to test this out. So let's use some voice notes because it's a bit more convenient whilst I'm working here rather than typing it away. So let's try something out of scope first of all. Can you tell me about the legendary footballer Norberto Solano? Okay, so interestingly, it actually thought that Norberto Solano was a contact in my CRM, so that's fair enough. That was a bit of a bad example. But let's try something else. But even though it did try and actually find that person. So if we go to the executions, and this is really good from like a debugging perspective. Let's come over to parsing. So yeah, you can see it thought that Norberto Solano was someone in my contacts for my CRM. I mean, I wish he was. And it basically thought that I was trying to send an email to this person. But that's fine. That's understandable. So let's try another example. What's the weather going to be like next week in London? Okay, so yeah, it's basically just come back to me saying, you know, this isn't really something that I can help with. If you need assistance with something else, let me know. So that's good. That's expected. Now let's try and focus on some of the use cases that it is set up to do, which is adding events to the calendar and sending emails. So we've already done the sending email, so I'm not going to go over that again. But let's try and add something to the calendar. I've got an event next week on the 22nd of July. I'm going to be there with my friends. It's going to be from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. and just it's a get together with all my old university friends. Can you add this to my calendar? Okay, so it's thinking. It'll be processing the audio, extracting the relevant information. Let's see if it works. Brilliant. So it's added the event get together with university friends, July 22nd, 4 till 8 p.m. Perfect. That all looks good. Let's look at the execution. You can see that it utilized the Google Calendar tool this time rather than the Gmail and the CRM tool, because those aren't necessary. Now let's go to the calendar and see if it actually got populated. And here we are. It has. Get together with university friends, 4 till 8 p.m. It got populated with a name. It got populated with a description. Yeah, this is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted to do. So that is our end-to-end Telegram AI personal assistant. You can, of course, expand this out into more use cases and to have more tools, but this is a really quick starter to start automating your business and start automating your manual tasks. So that is how you build your very own AI personal assistant. Zero coding, maximum automation, and maximum value, so that you can spend time on what really matters. If this helped you, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you're going to use this template, which you can download for free on Gumroad. Until next time, see you later.